welcome. It's 2020. I'm making a video. They said I couldn't do it. Here I am, doing it. It is important to me that you know that this is the second time I'm filming this video because I filmed it one time and then discovered that the microphone was not recording the whole time, and I didn't want you guys to have shitty sound, and more importantly, I didn't want Mr. Atheist to roast me for having shitty sound, because he was nice enough to buy us this microphone, and really any equipment we own, except for our camera. So yeah, support us on Patreon, I guess, is my desperate plea. I am recovering from the flu, by the way, so that's why my voice sounds different. If it sounds bad, I'm sorry. If you think it sounds sexy, that's really what I'm hoping for. It's enough of me whining, let's get into this.
Zelf.
On the shelf.
If you're at all familiar with LDS culture, then you are no doubt aware of how prevalent the Mormon mummy blogger trope is. You've no doubt seen hundreds of examples of these young, beautiful Mormon women with incredible hair and incredibly well-dressed children posting pictures of their life on social media in a way that just looks so perfect. Plenty of people inside and outside of Mormonism have observed how Mormon women seem particularly drawn to social media. And in this video, I'm going to discuss why I think that is and why I think they are so drawn to sort of a specific style of presence on social media. You know, the posting the really perfect, flawless photos and such. Now, an obvious point I want to start out with is that most of us, irrespective of religion, have less than ideal relationships with social media. Did I just use irrespective right? I've never used it before, but it felt right in my bones as I was saying it. Some of the brightest minds in the world are at this very moment spending time trying to figure out how to make us more addicted to the apps that they are developing. Millions, billions of dollars goes into this endeavor. And so I don't think any of us should feel bad about ourselves if we do have perhaps unhealthy relationships with certain apps or with social media and the internet in general, because a lot of really smart people spend a lot of time and a lot of money making sure that that's the case. So I don't think shame is useful. I think it's very beneficial for us to observe the ways that our relationships with social media are problematic and then, you know, benefit from improving those relationships, working on them. I just wanted to make this point at the start of the video because I don't want it to be another reason that Mormon women feel shame about themselves. I think there's a lot of shame within the Mormon community already that Mormon women have to deal with, and that's not what this video is about. So as someone who went to an LDS university, I'm social media connected with a lot of Mormons, and over the last 8 or 9 years, I've observed a pattern that a lot of you will be very familiar with. This pattern is girl meets boy, girl marries boy, 11 months later, girl posts gorgeous engagement and then wedding photos of them together online. Girl gets pregnant, girl posts incredibly gorgeous pregnancy photos online. Girl gives birth, girl posts gorgeous birthing photos online. Sometimes girl starts an Instagram side hustle selling adorable baby bows online, and more gorgeous photos. You get the idea. Now, this might not sound particularly weird because it isn't. It's very normal to post photos of big life milestones on social media. Most of us do it. But I have observed that there are differences in how Mormon women do it compared to, say, the average non-Mormon mother on my social media feeds. Of course, this whole video is just going to be through my lens, so I want to hear your perspectives too in the comments. If something I say doesn't ring true for you, I'm not here to say that my opinion is the correct opinion. These are just my observations. So first of all, Mormon women seem a lot more inclined to hire professional photographers at various points throughout the year. I'd say it's not uncommon for Mormon women, and I suppose the men might be involved too, but I kind of doubt it, to hire professional photographers multiple times throughout the year to take family photos of whatever kind. And this is not something I see very much in my non-Mormon friends or acquaintances on the internet. Mormon mums really love photo shoots, and again, while it's not weird to want to hire a photographer to mark these big life moments like when you're pregnant, I have noticed that Mormon mums do it a lot more frequently. I've also noticed that they tend to post photos from these photo shoots or events long after they're over, kind of like on a regular basis. You know, we've all seen the Mormon girl who gets married and posts wedding pictures for like years and years after on a very regular basis, usually combined with these messages about how grateful she is for her husband, how much she loves her husband, and you're always a little bit like skeptical because you're like, oh, you're really pushing this narrative on social media. I wonder what that's about. Research tells us that maybe you're not super happy in your marriage, but whole thing. I saw a tweet that was like, girl, if you want to post endless wedding photos after your wedding for years on end, do it. Like, it was a special day. You paid a lot of money for those photos. You're entitled to post them as much as you want. And I'm kind of that opinion. I think there's nothing wrong with women wanting to post their wedding pictures a lot. But this is kind of just an observation video where I'm talking about kind of different relationships between factors, and I just have observed that Mormon women do it more often. I'm not judging them for doing it or anything like that. I'm trying to be really PC in this video, can you tell? Long story short, Mormon mums are just more into posting on Instagram specifically, I think, and the stuff they post is usually a lot more sort of flawless than the average photo I might see from a mum in my feed. Again, this is a thing I'm talking about based on my observations, but it is one that I've seen people in and outside of Mormonism observe too, and journalists have written about it, so I don't think I'm just like totally off base or anything. So while we often hear people talk about Mormon mummy bloggers, I think just the average Mormon mum generally is more into social media. I think blogging's sort of dying down a little bit in favor of like general Instagramming. So why are Mormon women so into posting these beautiful, flawless pictures of their families all the time? Is it just because Mormons are so into family? I don't think so. Though Mormonism has become more progressive when it comes to women's issues in recent years, though not that progressive, ERA now! The life trajectory of the average LDS woman is still pretty different from the life trajectory of the average non-Mormon woman in developed nations. Pretty much as soon as they're old enough to understand language, Mormon girls have what I'm going to call the patriarchal fairy tale conditioned into their minds. This is the idea that the best way to live your life is to get married, have children, have a lot of children, and also do all of this at a pretty young age, because you don't really need to pursue a career or anything like that, because that's the man's job. And your most important thing you can do with your life is to have babies and raise said babies as a stay-at-home mum. Of course, the degree to which a Mormon girl is conditioned with this narrative will depend on things like the family she grew up in, where she grew up, but in general, that is the Mormon blueprint for girls, for women, and it's always been like that, except for the few decades where girls were taught that they would be plural wives, and that was the way they were going to get exaltation, and that was the thing to do, but that's a whole different video. Because of this, it's pretty common for Mormon girls to get married at a really young age and start having babies at a really young age, before they're really old enough to understand relationships and before they've established any sort of career, because in this Mormon patriarchal blueprint, a woman's job is to have babies and raise babies, and a man's job is kind of whatever he wants, although he will have the stress of, needing to financially provide for a family that will likely end up being quite large, so there is that, which might dampen his willingness to pursue maybe creative things and stuff, but not going to get too into the weeds on that. We are starting to see more Mormon women pursuing careers, but I'd say it's still definitely not the norm, because LDS leaders have always taught that being a wife and mother and staying at home to do that is the most important thing a woman can do in life. These male Mormon leaders have always taught this narrative, with Joseph Smith telling women to submit to their husbands, for the husband is the head of the wife. Spencer W. Kimball telling women that they should only work outside the home if it's absolutely necessary for them to do so. And this gem from current prophet Russell M. Nelson. Tonight I am attending this meeting with a son, sons-in-laws, and grandsons. Where are their mothers? Gathered in the kitchen of our home. What are they doing? Making large batches of homemade donuts. And when we return home, we will feast on those donuts. While we enjoy them, these mothers, sisters, and daughters will listen intently as each of us speaks of things he learned here tonight. It's a nice family tradition, symbolic of the fact that everything we learn and do as priesthood bearers should bless our families. That's so cute. I love that so much. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with women choosing to be stay-at-home mothers. I think there's many benefits for women and children who are able to do so. But I do think it's incredibly problematic that Mormon girls are taught that this is the one true path by men their entire lives, because it really limits their ability to imagine different realities for themselves. It encourages them to put themselves into these boxes that they might not be suited for whatsoever. M. Russell Ballard said, "All women have within their divine nature both the inherent talent and the stewardship to mother." So not a lot of room for women in Mormonism deciding that being a mother just isn't for them. It's just not something they're interested in doing. This is, of course, the definition of a patriarchal religion, and Mormonism is full of benevolent sexism. I mean, in the past it's been more overt sexism, but they've transitioned to a more benevolent form of sexism. in recent decades, which is kind of this notion that women are so special and so amazing, and like the reason they can't have the priesthood or don't need the priesthood is because they're even better than men, and like women are God's greatest creation. And you know, it's this thing where you sort of elevate women with your words and praise them and put them on this pedestal while at the same time denying them of rights. It's a whole thing. Mormon leaders have also historically condemned birth control. I'll leave a link to some quotes in the description box so that this doesn't get too dense. But it's not surprising that after generations of Mormon women being taught by male leaders that being a wife and mother is the most important thing they can do, that they still live according to this very patriarchal idea of what life should be like in 2020, whether or not it's something that they might want to do, like in a world where they haven't been conditioned by this. So how does this relate to social media? Well, like I said, Mormon girls are taught this patriarchal fairy tale narrative at a really young age, long before they've been able to develop an understanding of the many different ways a person can choose to live their life. It's often just kind of this unquestioned reality for them that that's what they're going to do. They're going to get married young, have children young, because that's what they've been taught to do. Their brains may not be fully developed. They may not even know that their brains are not fully developed yet, but that's what they've been taught to do. So that's what they do, because why wait, you know? Then once they're married, a lot of these girls realize that things aren't a fairy tale, that marriage and family life isn't the dream that it was sold to them as. And understandably, they start struggling with these difficult feelings of, you know, maybe lack of fulfillment or boredom or kind of like resentment of their situation a little bit, even if they squash those feelings down a lot. This is one of the reasons why Mormon mums are particularly vulnerable to the predatory practices of MLM schemes, because, you know, they don't have careers or a way to earn money. And I think a lot of them are craving this like stimulation, this fulfillment of things that we all need to have fulfilled in life. Like, for example, creativity is something that we all should care about. We all crave creative fulfillment, but that's not really encouraged in Mormonism. We'll get to that a little bit and how that relates to social media. But yeah, these Mormon women, a lot of them are desperate to do something to feel more stimulated. So they turn to things like MLMs and social media. And who can blame them? I would go insane if the highlight of my week was date night at the Olive Garden with my husband, who maybe doesn't appreciate me as much as he should, you know? Like, I get it, when you're there, your family, the soup's incredible, they got a lot going for them, but that wouldn't keep me feeling like vibrant and excited to be alive, especially if I'm like some 22-year-old girl who's in her prime in all these ways and is like changing nappies 20 times a day. I believe some women do thrive changing nappies 20 times a day at 22. Maybe not that many, but they do exist. But again, this is not about me saying it's wrong to be a stay-at-home mom or anything like that. It's just questioning the systemic sexism inherent in women being taught that that's what they must do. So social media is a way that lots of people in the world seek a false sense of fulfillment. And I don't think it's uncommon for Mormon women to think if they could just have, you know, a killer Instagram account that they could monetize, that they'd be more fulfilled, because they're seeing all of these really popular Mormon mum Instagrammers whose lives look so perfect and who are like getting toothpaste sponsorships and all this. And why wouldn't they look at that when they're like on their fourth kids TV show of the day, or, you know, they're bored out of their minds at home or whatever, and they're lonely? Why wouldn't they look at that and think, oh, I want to do that too, I'm going to try and do that? Side note, follow me on Instagram. I'm really gunning for a toothpaste sponsorship in 2020. There's also enormous pressure on Mormon women to be these perfect mothers and wives who swallow all of their unsavory emotions and thoughts in favor of creating this picture perfect family life that they've been taught to aspire to from, you know, as early as they could talk. Social media allows them to portray said picture-perfect family life regardless of what's going on behind the scenes or in their minds and hearts. It's no secret that Mormon women portrayed this picture-perfect stepford wives image of their lives long before social media was invented, long before the internet. The internet's just a new way for them to do it. Most of us present the version of ourselves that we think we should be on social media. We can curate the image of ourselves that we put out to the world, and what we choose to post says a lot about what we think our lives should look like, what we think we should be. It says a lot about our ideals. And for Mormon women, there's a very specific ideal that's rooted in patriarchy that doesn't leave a lot of room for humanness or messiness, which is why I think we see a lot of Mormon women posting like really similar stuff. I also know that I have historically used social media as a way to escape the present moment, and this is something that is really, really common whether or not we realize consciously that that's what we're doing in the moment. We often use social media to kind of numb out from reality, to put distance between these feelings we don't want to confront, whether it's stress or sadness or fear or maybe just boredom. And we, check our notifications and refresh our feeds, and we get this boost of chemicals that makes us feel good. And if our lives aren't fulfilling, we're going to seek out those boosts more frequently and maybe even obsessively. The relationship between Mormon women and social media isn't particularly unique. It's just that the systemic sexism in Mormonism lends itself to Mormon women seeking something in social media that should be found in their real lives. These are my thoughts anyway. Let me know yours in the comments below. I kind of feel like I've only scratched the surface in this video, so I'd love to hear your perspective, especially women who have been Mormon or maybe are currently Mormon. And also I'd love to hear, if you're an ex-Mormon woman, how your relationship with social media has maybe changed since you left. I don't know. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to support our channel, please do so on Patreon. I'll leave links in the description box. And I hope you're having a good 2020. Thanks for watching this video.